On our anniversary, I went to Ethan's office with 999 roses to surprise him, but I was hit by a car running a red light in the rain. Just as I was about to confront the driver, Ethan stepped out of the back seat and tenderly embraced a frail, helpless-looking woman instead of helping me. In that moment, I realized he wasn't at the office at all. My gaze fell upon the girl next to Ethan. Ethan subtly moved to stand in front of her, his brows furrowed as he asked me, "Grace, what are you doing here? Are you hurt?" Ethan's eyes sharpened when he saw the blood on my arm, and he instinctively reached out to check my injury. I subtly pulled away from his hand. Ethan pursed his lips and explained, "Gracie, don't misunderstand. It's Chloe's birthday today, and I was just worried she'd be lonely by herself, so I thought I'd keep her company." I felt like laughing. Worried she'd be lonely. Was I not lonely spending Valentine's Day by myself? I looked at the roses, soaked by the rain and crushed by the car's wheels, and felt like a fool. When saw the roses, his previously tense expression softened. "Gracie, you are hurt. Shall we go to the hospital first?" I glanced at the blood on my arm and nodded silently. The girl behind Ethan coughed again, each cough more violent than the last, as if she might cough up blood any second. Ethan helped me to the side of the road, preparing to call a cab to the hospital. But his grip grew tighter and tighter, hurting my wrist. Suddenly, he stopped. "Gracie, Chloe's asthma seems to be acting up again. Can you go to the hospital by yourself? I'm worried she's in danger." I gazed steadily at Ethan's anxious expression and nodded almost imperceptibly. He reacted as if he'd been pardoned, running quickly towards the other girl. I limped into a cab. Cab driver, to the hospital. Sitting in the car, I couldn't stop my tears from falling. I limped into the hospital, registered by myself, and got my medication alone. As the doctor bandaged my wound, he gently lifted my skirt and disinfected the cut on my knee with a cotton swab. I gasped in pain. "Does it hurt a lot?" the doctor asked, but his movements became gentler. "Don't let the wound get wet these next few days. Apply the medicine on time, and it should heal in about a week." I nodded, then couldn't help but ask, "Doctor, will this scar?" The doctor paused slightly. "No, it won't." Only then did I nod in relief. "Gracie, how's your wound?" Ethan rushed towards me and took my wrist. I frowned, subtly pulling away. "I'm fine." Ethan's eyes darkened, but he didn't react, only letting out a soft sigh. "Gracie, let's go home. I'll explain everything about today to you, properly." I nodded non-committally. The doctor who bandaged my wounds stood up. I saw the scar on his wrist, and felt a strange sense of familiarity. Unfortunately, he was wearing a mask, so I couldn't see his face. Ethan, however, blocked my view. As soon as he opened the door, Chloe's voice came from inside. Ethan's movement, as he supported me, paused. "Chloe, what are you doing here?" Chloe blinked playfully. I saw this was the place we used to live together, and just felt a bit sentimental. "Besides, after all these years, you haven't even changed the password, I don't believe." "Shut up, Chloe." Ethan reprimanded her in a low voice. Chloe's eyes welled with tears, a stubborn look on her face. "Is it wrong for me to just be nostalgic? I don't have many days left in my life. Is it wrong for me to want to be happy?" Ethan's grip on my wrist tightened painfully, and I couldn't help but frown, turning my head to look at him. But attention was entirely on Chloe, he didn't even spare me a glance. My heart felt utterly desolate. Married for 3 years, and I had no idea my husband had such a childhood sweetheart. A woman who could completely captivate my husband the moment she returned. Tears welled in my eyes, but I didn't want to lose so terribly. I pulled free from Ethan's grasp and frantically lowered my head. "I'll go back to my room first." "Gracie." Ethan called out to me urgently. I didn't look back, but I heard Chloe behind me say, "Ethan, can I stay in my old room tonight? I miss it so much here." After all these years, I realized I've never forgotten these beautiful memories. We are both the same, aren't we? My posture, poised to go upstairs, froze. There was one room in this house I had never entered. Ethan had kept that room locked. I had once asked him, why. Ethan's eyes flickered, and he pretended not to care, saying, "It's just where I keep some miscellaneous items." I was wise enough not to ask further. Everyone has a past, perhaps some childhood scars. I didn't care about it, but I never imagined it was his childhood sweetheart's room. I was utterly disgusted. Behind me, Ethan heard Chloe's incessant coughing and finally relented. Okay. My eyes grew moist, and my heart turned cold. I sat in my room for a while, feeling numb. Ethan gently knocked on the door. "Wife, may I come in?" Ethan had always had a cold personality. His occasional affectionate address was merely an outlet for guilt or intense emotion. I lowered my gaze and whispered, "The door isn't locked, come in." Ethan gently hugged me from behind. "Gracie, I know, what happened today upset you. But I have my difficulties, do you want to hear them?" His warm breath enveloped me, and my tears could no longer be held back, pouring out like a flood. Ethan gently wiped away my tears, and began to recount an untold past. Ethan was an orphan since childhood, adopted by Mr. and Mrs. Thomas, Chloe's parents. He and Chloe grew up together, and were very close. Later, the news that he was adopted somehow spread in school, leading to many negative rumors, disparaging his origins, his birth parents, and even rumors that he was supported by a wealthy woman. Ethan naturally couldn't stand it. When he was arguing reasonably, someone kicked him from behind. He fought back. But the other party had more people, and he was beaten so badly he had to stay in the hospital for several months. However, those rich kids simply used money to settle everything. During his hospital stay, Mr. and Mrs. Thomas visited a few times, advising him to keep a low profile at school and avoid trouble. Ethan understood perfectly well that he was an adopted son, not worth too much of their effort. "Chloe wants a brother. You were saved by Chloe, remember?" Mr. and Mrs. Thomas had always taught Ethan this from a young age. Ethan knew full well he wasn't a brother, but a pet meant to amuse Chloe. But didn't see it that way. When was hospitalized, she would visit every day, sometimes bringing organized notes, sometimes homemade bone broth. But it tasted so bad. Ethan couldn't help but smile, his eyes filled with tenderness. My throat tightened, but I didn't interrupt him. Mr. and Mrs. Thomas naturally disapproved, but Chloe always found excuses to sneak out. It was also thanks to Chloe's persistence that he was able to get into that good university. Just when Ethan thought everything was going well, Chloe was sent abroad. "Ethan, our family raised you for so many years, not for you to pursue something so far above your station." Mr. and Mrs. Thomas threw a stack of photos heavily onto the table. Ethan picked up the photos and his face instantly turned pale. The photos showed Chloe covering him with a blanket in the hospital room, Chloe sketching his portrait on scratch paper, and his name written countless times on scratch paper. From childhood to adulthood, through so many warm moments, Ethan and Chloe had long developed feelings for each other. But Thomas erupted in fury. "Ethan, we raised you until adulthood, and that's where our obligation ends. From now on, you go your own way. Don't bother our Chloe anymore, please, I beg you." Ethan looked at Mrs. Thomas' pale face, his voice rough. "Okay. I promise you, Mom." Ethan's heart shattered in that moment. From then on, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't get close to Chloe. Because the mother who had raised him for over a decade had begged him. What else could he do? It wasn't until a month ago that he received a call from Chloe, who told him she had a terminal illness. Ethan was instantly overwhelmed by a huge wave of panic. After so many years of shared history, I can't just abandon her. Listening to Ethan's resolute voice, my heart felt as if it were tightly squeezed by a giant hand. I couldn't breathe. "Ethan, please leave. I need to be alone." I heard my own voice, almost numb. Ethan sighed softly, then squatted down, and said gently, "Gracie, you are my only wife. I promise you, Chloe and I are just a past connection, there will be no inappropriate behavior." I looked at Ethan's earnest expression, and only felt a sense of powerlessness. "Perhaps you've moved on, but what about Chloe? Has she moved on? With so many years of history between you, what do I even count for?" I tossed and turned in bed, unable to sleep, crying until dawn. The next morning, I went downstairs early, wanting to buy some sleeping pills from the pharmacy. You are Ethan's wife. A sudden voice in the living room startled me. I turned on the light and saw the middle-aged couple sitting on the sofa, realizing they were Chloe's biological parents, Ethan's adoptive parents. I felt a little awkward, unsure what to say. Mr. Thomas spoke first. Miss Jiang, we came today mainly to ask you, and Ethan to get a divorce. I was shocked by Mr. Thomas' words. Sir, divorce is between Ethan and me, it has nothing to do with you. Mr. Thomas couldn't help but snort coldly. Ethan was raised by our own hands, we are his true parents. I instinctively wanted to retort, but felt powerless. Indeed, in Ethan's heart, Mr. and Mrs. Thomas were his real parents. I took a deep breath and faced Chloe's parents, speaking neither subserviently nor arrogantly. Sir, madam, regarding the divorce, please have Ethan discuss it with me personally. Otherwise, I won't agree. You, Mr. Thomas was enraged, and couldn't help but slap the table heavily. I turned and walked upstairs. How do you think we got in? This used to be Ethan and Chloe's wedding home. The first thing he did after becoming successful was to decorate this place and bring me to see it, saying he wanted to be with Chloe. If it weren't for my interference, perhaps they would have been married here long ago. Mrs. Thomas' voice was gentle, yet it pierced my heart like a dagger, twisting painfully. My back stiffened as I ascended the stairs, then I heard Chloe's joyful voice. Mom, Dad, why are you here? She happily came downstairs, but stumbled as she passed me. Ah! Chloe and I both tumbled down the stairs. Chloe. Mr. and Mrs. Thomas and Ethan all rushed towards Chloe simultaneously. I lowered my eyes to my knee, the wound had reopened and blood was gushing out. It truly hurt. My head was spinning from the impact, but I still forced myself to call out, Ethan. Before I could finish, I saw Ethan stride past me and scoop Chloe into a princess carry. Chloe, don't be afraid, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. I'll take you to the hospital. Ethan's face turned ashen at the sight of Chloe's bleeding forehead, and his hands trembled. Tears streamed from the corners of my eyes, but I still struggled to call out Ethan's name. Ethan, I hurt. You knew I hated pain the most. You promised me you'd take care of me my whole life. Was it all a lie? Ethan, please, just look back at me. I couldn't help but give a bitter laugh. The last shred of desire to live still pushed me to reach for my phone, trembling as I dialed a number. Before I lost consciousness, I heard Ethan's voice, feigning composure. Mom, Dad, don't worry, Chloe will be fine. She even promised to celebrate her birthday with me. My last straw broke. Ethan, I truly regret meeting you. When I woke again, I saw the hospital ceiling. You are awake. The doctor in the white coat looked at me with delight. I struggled to sit up, memories flashing through my mind repeatedly. I remembered Ethan carrying Chloe and walking past me. My heart felt as though it was pricked by countless needles, an unbearable ache. Your knee can't be injured again. The doctor's calm words interrupted my thoughts. I lowered my gaze to the scar on his wrist and asked, feigning casualness, Doctor, if you don't mind me asking, how did you get that scar on your wrist? The doctor's hand, holding the pen, paused. I hurriedly added, it's okay if you'd rather not say. I got burned while saving someone. Was it the Northwood University lab fire? I couldn't help but ask eagerly. I finally understood why this scar felt so familiar. Because had a similar scar on his wrist and he had been in the lab next door at the time. In fact, he was the first person I saw after I woke up. So I had unhesitatingly assumed Ethan was the one who saved me. Now, it seemed I hadn't even clearly seen the person's face. How could I have jumped to conclusions? When I first woke up, I had asked Ethan, are you the one who saved me? Thank you. Ethan hadn't denied it, merely saying, it's nothing. Now, it seemed I had been truly blind, always regarding him as my savior, always believing him to be a kind and brave person. The doctor looked at me for a long time. Yes. That day, there was one girl and 2 boys in the lab. The girl was furthest inside, by the window, and the 2 boys were near the door. After I rescued the 2 boys, I went in to find the girl. My wrist was burned by equipment when I carried her out. Listening to the doctor's words, I finally confirmed that he was the one who saved me. I looked at the name tag on his coat, Alex. Thank you, Alex. You've saved me twice now. The last call I made before losing consciousness had been to him. Alex chuckled nonchalantly. I thought you'd forgotten. No, I was about to explain when Ethan, rushing in, interrupted me. Gracie, how are you? I went back to look for you, and couldn't find you, I was so worried. Ethan pulled me into a hug. Ah. The bandage on my head throbbed faintly, and I couldn't help but frown. Alex, however, pulled him away. Sir, the patient needs rest right now. You'll aggravate her wounds like that. Ethan's face was extremely displeased. This is my wife, would I harm her? Hearing that, I couldn't help but laugh mockingly. Wouldn't harm me. If I hadn't called Alex, I might have died at home, and no one would have cared. Alex looked at Ethan, neither subserviently nor arrogantly. Sir, if you knew how to care for someone, you wouldn't have left your wife unconscious at home. Alex walked away without looking back. Ethan was left fuming, his face terrifyingly grim. Gracie, are you hungry? I bought you some mangoes. Ethan turned around, his expression softening as he spoke excitedly to me. Ethan, I'm allergic to mangoes, I interrupted him mercilessly. Ethan's body stiffened, then he frantically explained, Wife, I was just so worried I forgot. I didn't mean to. I looked at Ethan's flustered appearance and impatiently cut him off. Let's get a divorce, Ethan. Ethan stared at me blankly for a few seconds, then smiled. Wife, I know you are angry, but can you please not mention divorce? I'm sincere about you. Ethan's eyes were red. He pulled my hand, seeming to relent. Wife, don't leave me. Gracie, please. I love you, I truly love you. Hearing that made me want to vomit. Before I met Chloe, I had also believed my husband truly loved me. A man who bravely saved me from a fire, a man who cooked for me with great care, a man who, no matter how many other women were around, kept himself faithful, a man who gave me support when I needed it. But I was wrong. Everything shattered the moment Chloe appeared. She could make Ethan abandon me to die. She could make Ethan preserve her room for 9 whole years. What a devoted man. And I was like an unloved. Tears welled in my eyes, but I forced out a smile. Ethan, I've made up my mind. Let's get a divorce. I'll grant you and Chloe your wish, and you let me go, okay? I've been in a lot of pain being with you. I even regret meeting you. Ethan's grip on my hand slackened, and he quickly changed the subject. Wife, are you thirsty? I'll go get you some water. You must be hungry. I'll go buy you something to eat. Ethan left in a panic. Large tears slid from my eyes. My heart had died the moment he carried Chloe away. Miss Davis, can you draft a divorce agreement for me? Yes, as soon as possible. I looked at the shadow by the door, and finally spoke. I stayed in the hospital for over a month. Ethan was attentive and caring, but I knew it was just his guilt, and I didn't need it. My head seemed to have suffered some damage. Memories of Ethan were always fragmented and hazy. I seemed to be forgetting him. That was good too. If I didn't remember the past sweetness, I wouldn't be disappointed or sad. With permission, I could finally go home. Apply the medicine on time, and it won't scar, Alex said out of the blue. But I understood. When the fire broke out back then, I had asked a similar question, will I scar? At that time, Alex looked at me very seriously. No, you won't. So later, when the lab equipment fell, he used his arm to block it, which is how he got the scar on his wrist. And I wasn't injured, just passed out. Thank you, Alex, I sincerely thanked him. Alex, however, joked, how will you thank me? With yourself. Honestly, for someone usually so composed, his jokes could be quite startling. I stood there shocked and flustered, my tongue almost tied. Just kidding, Alex explained calmly. Only then did I relax. I didn't tell Ethan. I took a cab home alone. I didn't want to drag out the divorce any longer. To my surprise, when I got home, the house was transformed, covered with happy birthday decorations. Was it someone's birthday today? Ethan's birthday? I shook my head, but I couldn't remember at all. Gracie, you are back. Why didn't you let me pick you up? Ethan ran out of the kitchen, wearing gloves. Is it your birthday today? I asked, puzzled. The smile on Ethan's lips froze. Yes, it is. Did you forget? I looked at Ethan's face and nodded. I really couldn't remember. Ethan looked a little disappointed, but he still forced a smile. It's okay. I made a cake, let's eat it together. Since it was his birthday, I ultimately didn't mention the word divorce, and followed him to the dining room. Eat. Ethan cut me a slice of cake. I lowered my head and said thank you. How does it taste? I nodded. It's good. Hearing that, Ethan immediately beamed with joy and began eating his own cake. Gracie, do you remember when I proposed to you? I didn't have much money then, and could only afford a simple bracelet. But you didn't mind it at all. Later, when I had money, I bought you very expensive bracelets and rings, but you only loved that one. You said it was our most beautiful beginning, something that couldn't be measured by money. Ethan seemed lost in endless memories, but he paused the moment he saw my wrist. He stared at my wrist in disbelief, his voice as if squeezed from his throat. Gracie, where's your bracelet? Only then did I look down at my wrist and said indifferently, I don't remember. Maybe I lost it. Ethan looked at me and shook his head. How is that possible? You used to care so much about that necklace. How could you lose it? I looked at him steadily. Ethan, you yourself know that's in the past. I don't care about things from the past anymore, so there's nothing to regret if they are lost, right? Ethan's face turned terrifyingly grim, and he suddenly tried to hug and kiss me. But I felt a wave of nausea, almost throwing up. The color drained from Ethan's face. I see. You are just angry with me, aren't you? I placed the divorce agreement on the table. Ethan, I'm serious. This is the divorce agreement, take a look and sign it if there are no issues. Then we'll go to the Countess office to finalize the procedures and we'll be completely done with each other. I continued talking to myself. Ethan suddenly flared up, tearing the divorce agreement on the table to shreds and punching the liquor cabinet, his hand bleeding profusely. Unfortunately, my heart no longer ached for him. Ethan, we came to celebrate your birthday. Chloe's voice came from the doorway. Today she wore exquisite makeup, there was no sign of a patient's pallor. Oh, Gracie is here too. How's the injury on your knee? Chloe's smile held mockery and disdain. I slapped Chloe directly. And you? How's your injury? Ah. Chloe cried out in pain from my slap, looking pitifully at Ethan, but was staring blankly at the shredded paper on the floor. I stepped out and immediately felt refreshed, as if all the pain had passed. And I would move towards a better direction. Where are you going? A car stopped in front of me, and the window rolled down to reveal Alex's calm profile. I hesitated, but this was a suburban neighborhood, and it was hard to call a cab. Ultimately, I got into Alex's car. How are things between you and Ethan? I paused, then casually replied, we are close to divorce, but he won't agree. I don't know how long it will drag on. Really? Alex's hand tightened on the steering wheel, his eyes unreadable. You can just drop me here, I said quickly as we reached my rented apartment complex. Alex gave me a faint glance. What's the rush? I live here too. I was a bit shocked. Did someone who drives a luxury car also live in this kind of apartment complex? It wasn't until Alex drove the car to my building that I realized something was off. What floor do you live on? 16th floor. Well, wasn't that a coincidence? I also lived on the 16th floor. Such a coincidence, I wouldn't believe it was accidental even if you killed me. I almost fled in a panic. I was no longer an innocent young girl. I had guessed Alex's intentions, but I dared not admit it. My phone chimed with a message from Alex. I opened it to find Chloe's medical report. She didn't have a terminal illness at all, she had faked it. But knowing Ethan's personality, he would usually investigate everyone. Even when I married him, he had already thoroughly investigated my family. Yet, I never thought the person he trusted most would deceive him in such a way, but it no longer mattered to me. I replied, thank you, to Alex and forwarded the message to Ethan. Ethan only replied with 3 words, I am sorry. Sorry for what? Sorry for 3 years of marriage. Sorry for my sincerity. Sorry. could fix things, there wouldn't be so much hate and resentment in the world. I saw Ethan again downstairs in my apartment complex. I knew he was well connected, so finding my address was easy for him. He held a bouquet of roses, wearing a black trench coat, standing beneath a tree. The street lamp cast a long shadow behind him, creating an illusion of loneliness. "Gracie, I've come to apologize." Just as I was about to walk past him, he called out to me. "I was temporarily deceived by Chloe. I know many things I did disheartened you, but I promise you, it won't happen again. Can we start over? Didn't you say you wanted to get a cat? We can get many. And that trip you mentioned, can we go tomorrow?" And Ethan kept talking to himself. But I cut him off without hesitation. "Ethan, we can't go back. I don't remember any of the things you are talking about." Ethan still gave a bitter smile. "It's okay, we have many, many more futures ahead, you can slowly remember. Please give me a chance, okay? Please." Honestly, it was the first time I had seen Ethan so humbled, but many things that happened in the past, the damage has been done. No matter how much you try to mend it, it will never be the same as it was originally. "Ethan, if you don't agree to the divorce, I don't mind filing a lawsuit." Leaving those words behind, I went upstairs without looking back. "I'll wait until you forgive me, I'll wait for you," Ethan shouted after me. But it was already too late. A belated love, so cheap it failed to spark any desire, leaving only desolation. A torrential rain suddenly fell that night. The sound of the rain kept me awake. I peeked through a gap in the curtains, and saw Ethan still standing there. The roses in his hand were already soaked, and he was drenched. I checked the time, 3:30 a.m. I just glanced, then looked away. The past was vivid, and I couldn't repeat my mistakes. When I woke up the next day, people in the apartment complex were saying that the man, who stood there last night wouldn't leave, no matter how much they tried to make him. He eventually collapsed, and an ambulance took him away. I just listened quietly, my heart feeling no ripple of emotion. Chapter 9 later, a strange number called. "Hello," I said, typing on my keyboard. The person on the other end didn't speak. Just as I was about to hang up, a voice finally came through. "Gracie." It was Ethan. "I've signed the divorce agreement. When should we complete the paperwork?" Ethan's voice was strained. My hand paused. "Tomorrow." "Okay." It was a long time before I heard Ethan's almost imperceptible reply. The next day, when I saw Ethan, his eyes were bruised underneath, filled with red veins, and his beard was untrimmed. It was the first time I had seen him so disheveled. Finally, the paperwork was completed. The moment I held the divorce certificate, I felt a lightness I hadn't known before. "Gracie, can I hug you one last time?" Standing at the entrance of the Countess' office, Ethan quietly asked. The sunlight was blinding, and I actually saw Ethan's eyes redden, tears welling up. I took a step back, refusing silently. Ethan withdrew his arms and gave a bitter smile. "I understand." A black car stopped in front of me. The window rolled down, revealing Alex's lean profile. "I'm leaving now," I said, bidding farewell to Ethan. "Hey," Ethan called out to me, his lips moving a few times, then he softly said, "Grace, I wish you happiness." I froze for a moment, then nodded. The past was like smoke, from now on, I would find my own happiness. Alex began pursuing me. After more than a year of getting to know each other, we became a couple. He was a very thoughtful man. He would pick me up when I worked late into the night, remember all my preferences, and gently pat my body when I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. It was precisely because of these things that I felt a long-lost sense of love. Being loved, it turns out, is such a beautiful thing. As for Ethan, I rarely thought of him anymore. Memories of him had faded in my mind. My therapist said it was my brain's self-preservation mechanism, forgetting bad memories so I wouldn't be so hurt. I nodded in agreement. I had no desire to recall a past I couldn't return to. Later, I saw Ethan 3 times. Once, while waiting at a traffic light, I saw him in the distance. He seemed to have been watching me for a long time, looking at me with a nostalgic gaze. Unfortunately, there was no need for us to exchange pleasantries anymore. I walked past him, disappearing into the crowd. Later, Alex and I got married. As we exchanged our vows, I glanced down and saw Ethan in the audience. He wore a black suit, sitting there, watching me with tears in his eyes. "Bride, do you take this man to be your husband?" the officiant asked solemnly. "I do." In that moment, tears streamed down my face. In that moment, I found happiness, to spend my life with the person I loved, growing old together. We kissed amidst cheers. And left amidst the cheers. He also sent me a wedding gift, which seemed to be a letter and a handmade bracelet, but none of that mattered. What mattered was that Alex got incredibly jealous. He unhesitatingly threw Ethan's gift into the trash, and kept me up all night. The last time I saw Ethan was at the amusement park. I was holding Lily's hand, and gently telling her I would buy her ice cream, when I accidentally bumped into a man in front of me. Just as I was about to apologize, I saw Ethan's face. "Is this your daughter?" Ethan asked. I nodded. "Yes. She's very cute, very much like you." Ethan smiled meaningfully and patted Lily's head. I felt a wave of awkwardness and quickly took Lily's hand and hurried away. "Mommy, who was that?" "Just a stranger," I vaguely replied. Just then, Alex returned with balloons, tying one to Lily's hand, then taking my hand as we slowly headed home. "The future is long, and the road ahead stretches far, but because of you two, I am no longer alone."